dolls. Have you ever walked into a place and felt something inside of you say, oh, there I am, or something similar to that? You may not have known the people, you may not have understood why the experience mattered. You might not have even had words to explain what you were feeling, at least in that moment, right? You just knew that something felt different there or in that place, in that experience. Maybe louder, freer, more alive, but definitely, most importantly, more like yourself. I had that experience when I was about 14 or 15 years old at my very first rock concert. I didn't know the songs. I didn't know the words. I didn't even know who the band was, right, before going to the concert. And I definitely didn't know that the rebellious rock chick I saw reflected back at me in the people around me would eventually become my personal lighthouse, my guide, my beacon back to myself. I only knew that something about being there and something about that night felt real in a completely different way, or at least definitely in a way I had not experienced before. And so today we're talking about the clues that happiness leaves behind, or that happiness leaves for us, the difference between fitting in and belonging, and what can happen when what can happen when an experience, that might be the best way to put it, when an experience gives us a view into a hidden part of ourselves. And that part starts to come alive. So I'm going to talk about all these things and connecting the dots to a few other things in this episode. So let's get into it. Welcome to the Rebel Manifestors podcast, where we flip the script on manifestation by focusing on embodying the badass chingona already inside you. If you're done playing small and are ready to become the main character of your own damn life, estás en el lugar correcto. You're in the right place. This isn't about waiting for the universe to hand you a better life. It's about becoming the mujer living it through stories, journaling, music, visioning, mindset, and bold action. We'll rewrite the beliefs that have kept you stuck and step into the life that's been waiting for you all along. Your future self doesn't wait for permission. So vamos, let's fucking go. Welcome to this week's episode of the Rebel Manifestors podcast. If you are coming back, returning, welcome back. And if you are brand new, welcome. I am so excited to have all of you here and appreciate you spending some time with me. So I am Patty Diaz, for those of you who are new, and I am originally from the LA area. I am here to talk to you about my core principle is manifesting me, which really means just becoming the version of you that you envision, living the life and having the experiences on your vision board or on your wish list or whatever the case is for you. August, which is when I'm recording this, it's currently August 2026. So if you're watching this in the future or listening to it, hello. But August is Happiness Happens Month. And so I revisit an aspect of happiness every August. And this month, started looking at happiness and, I don't know, the messages. I said in the intro, like the clues that happiness leaves us or leaves for us. And so connected with what I've been talking about in previous episodes about recognizing ourselves, the freedom to become ourselves, that type of thing. I really am looking at that aspect of it, the freedom to be ourselves and what that might look like. So I'm going to share some of my experiences with you and see how you can relate that, apply that to yourself, if any of it resonates with you, all the things. So, starting with happiness, I think that happiness is something a lot of us, or maybe kind of the default thinking we have about happiness, is that happiness comes after or comes later, right? After or when we find our purpose, after we become successful, after we create the right life or the ideal life, or I don't even know what word you want to choose to fit in there. And maybe after finally getting our shit together. That might be just kind of like the catch-all, right? That's when we'll find happiness. That's when we'll be happy. And I'm here to challenge that today. I challenge that often, but I'm definitely going to focus on challenging that in this episode, because maybe happiness isn't the destination, right? It's not the thing that we finally get to. It's not the thing that we earn the right to have, or the right to be, or the right to feel happy, right? Maybe it's using happiness and the clues that it does give us and that it does leave us to actually help us find our way. Use that as a beacon, as an alignment check, as a lighthouse, like I mentioned also in the beginning, in the intro. So looking at the clues that we get from happiness, and what I mean by happiness, I'm talking about the things we identify and realize and know that make us happy. So this isn't like the thing that makes everybody happy, because that's not that's not the thing. There's some things specific to each of us, right? And that's really what I'm inviting you to get curious about today, because I am positive in some way, shape, or form it has been leaving clues and information and insight all along. And so looking at that aspect, like I said, and connecting to what I've been talking about in some previous episodes, the story came back to me about my first rock concert, and that then helped me connect the dots to different places that has shown up. That same feeling, the thread. I will connect the thread for you as I go through the stories. I'll give you a clue that if you're familiar with Rebel Manifestor, won't come as a surprise at all. It is music. It is music, and how that thread has definitely weaved continuously through my life, and in ways that music has been involved, where I have been able to, and still am able to feel most like myself. So thank you for being here, and let's get going and talk about the threads or the clues. Maybe thread is a good way of looking at it, because you can look back and see how it weaves and winds and connects the things in our life. So maybe you think about it like clues, maybe you think about it like a thread, and maybe you have a completely different way of looking at it, or that comes to you. If you do, always I encourage you and invite you to share in the comments wherever you're listening to or watching this episode. So long before, way before I knew anything about manifestation, I didn't hear that word at all growing up. As I was a kid in high school, I definitely didn't hear that till, I don't even know when the first time was. I'll say 40s to be safe, because that's a good bet. Maybe 30s, I really don't know. But so before I knew anything about manifestation, about the concept of becoming and identity, like stepping into the identity of our authentic selves, anything time before that, happiness left one hell of a clue for me at a Stryper concert. If you're not familiar with Stryper, they are a hard rock, heavy metal, type band. They, I'm pretty sure they're still around making music and doing things, but I'll tie a little bit more of that later on. Let me get into the story, because this is the, where this thread clue starts to weave its way through my life. So it was, like I said, I was 14 or 15 years old. I didn't drive yet. That's why I'm kind of going by that time frame. And I had a friend named Jennifer P. I won't give away her last name, but Jennifer P. in high school, junior high, whatever, yeah, high school. I think high school, 14, 15 in high school. But I was at the same school for junior high and high school. So I had a friend named Jennifer P. And somehow, for whatever reason, she invited me to go with her to this rock concert. And from what I remember, it was like her youth group had an extra ticket, or maybe she had someone that was going to go that couldn't. That detail I don't remember. I just know that Jennifer asked me to go, and the universe and the planets, however you want to look at, aligned, and I was able to go. So I got to go to the Stryper concert, and I don't even know why she chose me. I really don't. We were in the same, I think we had 2 classes together, 1 for sure, possibly 2. And she's not someone that I grew up with. She was someone that I met there. Like, she wasn't like one of the kids that like went through all the grades that we all went through together. She had moved there at some point, and so we were friends. And for whatever reason, and either way, thank you, Jennifer P., and thank you, universe, for choosing me, for things aligning perfectly. So as we go, so it was the first concert, my first concert ever. So that was very significant. I didn't know that back then. Back then, I was just like, how fun. It was all about the fun, right? That's why I wanted to go. It was a new experience. Like I said, I wasn't even familiar with the band. So it turns out this was my first real experience or exposure in any kind of significant way to hard rock, heavy metal, and like the hair band type of music, right? I wasn't already a Stryper fan. I talked about that. And I didn't, if she asked me, she might have asked me if I knew any of their songs. I wouldn't have known. So I didn't know any of their songs. And I didn't know then that this would be such an important, significant night of my life, night in my life. I didn't know it would be an important, what's the word, benchmark, occurrence, thing that happened in my life. So going to the concert, I can't even tell you where it was, like what stadium or arena or where it was. It was in Los Angeles, obviously, LA area. But getting to the concert, I remembered it had the feel of like going to a baseball game, which is something I had done. I loved going to Dodgers games. Go Dodgers. LA girl. So it had that kind of feel, but a little different. But as I'm telling this story, that's the connection I first had. It felt a bit like a baseball game, and I loved going to baseball games. The anticipation, there was definitely a vibe. There were the merchandise stands, right? And so all that was very similar to going to a game. People were wearing the band t-shirts, obviously, whatever merch there was available back around that time. And there was, if you go to any concert, you know that there's a vibe, the hair, the clothes, the energy, really. And that was all definitely like my senses were taking all of this shit in. I remember that. And I remember that, well, this was a first, you know what, now that I'm saying it, I don't know if it was my first experience with like band tees, like t-shirts, because I did have posters and music that I liked, but to tell you the truth, I don't know if I had any band tees or music merchandise at that point in my life, but I could tell that it connected people with each other. And I don't know why, but it was somehow different than the jerseys, like the sports jerseys. So this is kind of a parallel and kind of not with going to a sports game. And there was definitely like the collective excitement and happiness. And this was a new experience, like being at an arena. So all the things that go along with a new experience. And then, I don't even know who the opening band was. I have no idea who it was. And then the music started, and probably with the opening band too. But in my memory and how I see this, I'm obviously tying it to the Stryper concert because that was who we were there to see. But when the music started, like I quite literally felt it in my body, like the bass, the drums. And if you've been to a concert or any kind of show, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. But feeling that sensation and just, there's nothing like a fucking rock concert. I'm sorry. There is just nothing like it. So the vibration of the music, the loudness of it, the physical energy of the band and the people all mishmashed together, not knowing the lyrics and not knowing the songs didn't matter. It was just the feeling, the energy, the fun. The music was good. It wasn't something that I hated. So I was completely in the experience without knowing a damn thing about the lyrics, the band. It was definitely the experience. And there was, like I mentioned, there was a vibe, a feel, an energy with the crowd, the whole experience that did not feel superficial, right? And as I'm telling this, I was not having these realizations in the moment. This is all looking back and through over various experiences and times of looking back at this event. I saw rebels. I saw outcasts. I saw the weirdos, the misfits, the oddballs, and people who, what's a good way to put it, who didn't really appear interested in fitting in, right? And it was definitely not the clique, like the cliquey feel. It was anti the clique, which I think is what most of my, at least to that point in my life, experience had been. And because of that, something in me, I guess, responded or recognized that this is what I want to listen to. I love this. I'm loving it. This is how I want to dress. These are the people. This is the type of people that I want to hang out with, that I want to know, because it feels like me. And yeah, it feels like me. These are the things I want to listen to. And a side note, I have no doubt, do another episode on this as well with independence. I think this was also the experience that helped me break free from other people's influences, like the music that I'd grown up listening to, at home or in the car, like the radio that my parents played. And the music kind of by default that just I had been listening to and getting to know at that point. This was really me saying, I like this. I am choosing this because I had never experienced it before. It wasn't by default. It was definitely an experience in and of itself and on its own. So something collectively about that. This feels like me. And not that I needed to look, or not that even anybody needed to look exactly the same, but being within that energy, that vibe, that experience, it gave me evidence, if you will, that another way of being existed, right? It's like, holy shit, this whole world just opened up for me. Because the people there, I only knew one person. I only knew Jennifer. But the people there didn't know me personally. So it wasn't that every person in the arena welcomed me or accepted me or even paid attention to me, right? And I'm not saying that as a bad thing, but their presence, their collective vibe, their collective acceptance showed me there was a world where someone like me could belong. And if you have ever experienced that, or even if you're lacking that, I'm sure you can relate or understand to that. I belong. Not just I'm here, not that I exist. I belong. And I got a taste of that, definitely, that night. And so I mentioned the baseball game, like this connection, a little bit of a comparison to the baseball game. And there's I don't know. I don't know if it's a lesson or just definitely a realization, but I remember being at a game, like an actual game. And this is, I'm weaving the thread. I'm looking back at the way the thread has been weaving, because this didn't happen that night. Like this realization, this experience didn't happen that same night. But I remember being at a baseball game. And again, like I said, I loved it. I loved the excitement, the energy, cheering for the team. And I am a loud human being. I am naturally a loud human being. I talk loud, I laugh loud. I feel like I whisper loud. So I'm just loud. I take up space in the volume, even if I don't take up space height-wise. I guess the volume might make up for that. And so I remember being at a game and cheering and clapping really loud. And I just remember my mom saying something along the lines of, do you have to be so loud? Or keep it down? Or something, right? Just along that note. And I'm sure it was just in the moment. And I'm not going to just go into justifying or defending, but that's what happened. And again, looking back at that, I say this like my response now would have been this. Obviously, I didn't respond this way on that day. I'd be like, hello, I'm at the fucking game. This is where I'm supposed to be loud. And that is simply an incident, an experience, a moment in time that sticks in my life about when I was asked to tone it down. And so at the time it became, or I guess over, just in the collective experience of things, it became one of the messages, one of the many messages to quiet down, to tone myself down, to minimize myself in some way. And so connecting it again now back to the concert, at the concert, my loudness was not inappropriate. My loudness and participation that way, I combined that together. My loudness and participating, that was part of the participation. My loudness was the participation. I love it when you guys get to hear me verbally process things. So that meant I was in the experience. I was truly present by yelling and cheering and being like, oh my God, I love it so much. Whatever I did to be loud. I could yell. I could dance around. I could cheer and clap loud. Everyone else there was too. And so I could feel the energy of all that I'm just going to say within every cell of my body. I know that's not terms I would have used back then, but it is a term that I'm familiar with now, a way of saying that. And nobody treated me bad. Nobody told me to quiet down. I mean, they probably, you know what concerts are like. If you've been to one or any, it's not a conversational place, right? You have to like really get into someone's ear to talk and say something. And so nobody treated my natural loudness as something that needed correcting. I did not in any way get told or asked or be made to feel that I had to tone it down being at that concert. And so that was one of the first places I felt like I belonged. It was because I could express and share the qualities that came naturally to me. And that I had been asked to tone down, quiet down, or diminish and suppress in some way. So here I was able to show up exactly as myself. And I think looking back, obviously that's a big, a bright spot of the thread. That's some reinforced area of the thread at all. So one of the first places I felt like I belonged was a place where the qualities I had been asked to suppress or dim down in some way actually meant that I was participating, that I was in the experience. So hope that made sense. It makes sense in my brain. And so, yes, that was the story, very condensed story of my very first rock concert. And so what changed, right? What happened after the concert, after the fact? I definitely dove into learning about the bands, discovering the music. That's when I started buying all of the magazines, right? Came with the posters and the pictures of the bands and whatever else came in those things, lyrics and stories. That's when I really dove into buying those magazines, getting to know the bands, buying. I think I started out with tapes. Back then we had cassette tapes at first and then records and all the things. So that's when I started doing that. And this was me choosing that. Again, not by default. I did continue enjoying the other music and genres of music that I had been listening to, because this wasn't about rejecting something I already liked. And I even have a playlist today that's called my 80s soundtrack, my Fatty's 80s soundtrack, that includes all of the music and songs and things that I loved from back then. But the rock music became something deeper. It somehow, it anchored to my heart, to my soul, if that makes any sense. And this is where, that night at the concert, this is where my rock chick identity began. I don't know if it became visible that night, but the seed was planted that night. And then I began exploring ways that I could express and then make that rock chick visible. And maybe at the time, I thought, cool, this is some really cool music. I'm guessing that was exactly what I was focused on. I found some really cool music that I loved to listen to. But looking back, I have recognized that I discovered evidence of myself. Evidence of the authentic me that was easily able to come out. I didn't have to push or prod or talk myself into yelling and cheering and screaming. I didn't become the rock chick that night, but I recognized her. I didn't become her obviously that night, but I recognized her. I said, oh, there I am. Like I said at the beginning in the intro. So, okay, fast forward several years later, shortly after high school, I got a job at a salon called Long Hair Rocks. And if you are from the Pasadena area and you know that salon, let me know in the comments if you ever went there, if you know it. Totally very specific to Pasadena. It was on Colorado Boulevard. And I had been going there to get my hair cut in high school. So I was familiar. I loved it. And the name just, says it all. Long Hair Rocks. It was all about the 80s long hair, growing it, healthy. This is also where I learned to work with and manage and love my hair as well. And I am pretty damn sure that Jennifer P. recommended that salon to me as well, because she was my rock chick friend. I didn't have any other friends that were into that kind of music at the time. I did find more, but at the time, she was the one. So I'm pretty sure Jennifer P. recommended the salon to me as well. But the name, Long Hair Rocks, probably says it all. It probably paints a pretty good picture. And being there, I didn't work there as a stylist. I was the receptionist, front desk person, making the reservations, appointments, letting people in, checking them in, all that kind of thing. But being there, I met and worked with and got to know people who reminded me of the people that I experienced back at the rock concert and who I had been experiencing and meeting and trying to express myself as, since the concert. And so what initially started with the concert with a glimpse of the identity, the feeling, the vibe that people gave, became part of my regular world because I worked there with those people, the people who came to get their hair cut there. And yes, there were some band people that would come and get their haircut there too. It was definitely a salon that was promoted and advertised on the radio, on the rock stations back then. So there were some bands, I should say some artists, because it wasn't like full bands. Not all of them anyway. So there were some artists that did come there, but it became my everyday experience, my regular experience. And I wasn't only observing. I wasn't on the outside looking in. I was part of that world. And yeah, that was definitely a huge contribution to my becoming and, allowing myself to express myself that way. I was building relationships on different levels with my coworkers, with my boss, with the people, the customers that came there. And just, some, I did get, autographs of some of the artists that came there. So building and experiencing those kinds of relationships there. And so that environment encouraged most definitely more of my becoming. So the concert showed me that this world existed. And working at Long Hair Rocks gave me the community within this world, right? Gave me the community within that world that I had discovered. And that's why it's part of the thread that keeps a weaving through my life. And so fast forward again, or jump forward several years ago. I say a few years ago because time is a weird thing anyway. But I had already started my business, and I had, very short synopsis, I had becoming a published author on my vision board. And through a networking opportunity, I was paired up to talk about and get to know about their business with a publisher. And so I chose, as uncomfortable as it was at that time, to participate and contribute to a book. So I was contributing a chapter to a work about becoming an entrepreneur and the business journey. And I'm going to read a passage. I'm not going to read the whole chapter, but I'm going to read a passage that is definitely very relevant. So if you're watching this at all on video anywhere, I have to put my glasses on for this because the type is smaller in the book. And so the name of the book, I will put this in the notes as well. The name of the book is Namaste, Living Rich, Wisdom from Heart-Centered Boss Babes. The name of my chapter is called Blue Moon Serenade, Manifesting Me. So see, the concept of manifesting me is not new. And Blue Moon Serenade had to do with the blue moon. Back then is how I got the idea for a business. But here's the excerpt really quickly. We all have a vision or image of the most amazing, badass version of ourselves. One we wish we could be like. Mine is a rebellious rock chick. She says and does whatever the fuck she wants and doesn't worry about whether other people get it, like it, or even approve. She doesn't care about being appropriate or what other people think about her. She isn't concerned about being liked or accepted and fitting in. Actually, she prefers not to. She wants to be a unique contribution to the overall mosaic. One of the random, awkward, and weird, though perfectly beautiful pieces. My journey to entrepreneurship has, in truth, been the process of realizing that she is me. It is one of learning how to be this version of myself instead of just wishing I could be her. She is not an unrealistic dream, but part of the real me, my personal lighthouse beacon. A light in the dark when I am in one of life's shitstorms, feeling lost and disoriented. She is the anchor that keeps me from drifting too far off course and is my lifeline back to what is important. She knows the way and is always ready to guide me. My journey to entrepreneurship is the process of manifesting me, my inner rock chick, and she is a fucking star. So that introduces you to my rock chick in that book. So she says and does whatever she wants. And I want to kind of hone in on or point out that we all have I call it an avatar. You might call it something different. This vision, this avatar of like I said, the most badass version of us. The one who has the witty replies. The one who knows how to say just the right thing without getting overexcited, and flustered. And when you think about it, conversations or experiences and you're like, oh, I wish I had said that version of us that knows exactly what to say, and those things come and knows how to handle situations and circumstances that are unexpected without getting flustered and not worrying or giving a shit about fitting in. So that's that's who I discovered to be my lighthouse beacon. And when I have drifted off course, and there have been many instances in my life when I did, that she brings me back. I look for her, or I see the light and she brings me back. Because when I wrote that passage, I finally had the language for what I had felt back at 14 or 15 at the concert. The woman I thought I wished I could be wasn't unrealistic. It wasn't just this, oh, I wish I could be like her. She was me. She is me. She will continue to be me. And it's up to me to become more and more her throughout my life. It's an ongoing process, because just like I evolve, she evolves as well. And that's why I always see her as there. She knows the way. She can guide me. She's that lighthouse beacon. So that's a connection of 3 very different experiences in my life, but that all connect with that thread that has been weaving through my life, probably my entire life. So this shift, this is, I guess, a concept that I want to point out is the belief shift. Because the old belief is we have to first figure out who we are. We have to discover our purpose, or maybe have a clear laid out plan, and then we can confidently pursue the things that belong in our lives, or the things that bring us joy, right? Again, it's that idea of earning the right to be happy, or earning happiness. And why that thinking keeps us stuck is that it makes self-discovery, getting to know yourself, feel like an intellectual assignment, because we think we have to have it all figured out. We have to plan it out. We have to know all the steps. We have to know all these things. We dismiss joy and happiness because it doesn't appear productive. It doesn't seem like something like getting it done, like hustle, all that hustle culture. We assume that if we have an interest or something we want to explore, it only matters if it becomes a purpose, like our life's purpose, or if it contributes to a business idea or a major life plan. It also keeps us stuck because we wait for certainty. We wait for that knowing, for the logical knowing, before trusting what does make us feel alive, right? And we overlook the ordinary experiences already showing us who we are. So me loving a rock concert didn't give me the purpose of being a rock star. I've never wanted to be a rock star. I've never had that desire. But being at the rock concert and experiencing that joy gave me a clue. It helped me feel alive, feel more alive, recognize myself and feel more like myself. So that's why thinking everything that we love needs to have a purpose is bullshit. It's not at all. So the reframe, the rebel manifestor reframe, is that you don't always think your way to knowing yourself. Oftentimes, you recognize yourself through the things that make you feel alive, like my rock concert. And so the new belief from that reframe that you can take, and again, make this fit for you, is I can follow what feels true, alive, and expansive before I know exactly where it's going to take me or where it's leading, what it's leading to. So sit with that, re-listen to it if you need to, write it down. But yeah, the things that you love don't have to have a purpose. You loving them is plenty. Them bringing you happiness is plenty. So bringing this to, I don't know, teaching points, if you will, or focus points for this episode. Happiness doesn't need to become a career, a mission, a purpose, or even a monetized opportunity. The things that bring us happiness. They don't need to lead to one of those things or anything else at all. Because the things that bring us happiness, that we find joy in, that just the thought of them or participating in them makes us feel good, we find what energizes us. We discover the things that we value. We discover, or it reveals, how you want to express yourself. And when I say express yourself, that can be verbally, with the clothes that you wear, with your hair, with the color of your hair, with getting tattoos, how you adorn yourself, the types of accessories that you wear. This is all a form of expression. It's not only verbal. It can also reveal where we feel the most free. Either just free in general, free to be ourselves, or free to simply enjoy and experience where we are. It can also reveal who you are or who we are when we stop, I switch back and forth, monitoring ourselves. Like, am I being productive? What is this leading to? All that. And it can also reveal which parts of you tend to hide or diminish or put off to the side or leave outside the door when you enter a room. And then ultimately it can show you which parts of you need more room to learn, to experience, to live, and to breathe, that wants to step out more. Because sometimes feeling more like yourself is enough reason. Am I saying that right? Feeling more like yourself is enough reason to follow that clue, that thread, that experience, because it helps you feel more like you. So current examples in my life, right? For those of you who are new to the podcast, I moved solo all by myself to Mexico about 9-ish months ago. And the things that I have found that help me do that here, or that do that, like the experiences, is exploring coffee shops. The coffee shop culture here in Ensenada is huge. There are hundreds of coffee shops. Many times there are several coffee shops on a block. And when I say block, I mean like from, around the whole block, not always just the one street. But the coffee shop culture is huge, and they're each unique. They're not chain coffee shops here, and they have different themes, different vibes. So that makes I love exploring coffee shops. It is truly one of my favorite things here. If you can see, I have a bandana on. I have had, I wore them periodically, if you look back from time to time. But that felt like a way of romanticizing my life. Wearing hairbands, bandanas, headbands, scarves, all these things, right? So that is a way that I'm doing that more. It is taking some time, and I am still in the process, but I am releasing the hustle culture. I'm taking things more slowly. I do things more slowly. I'm not in a rush. That is the vibe overall a lot of the times here in Mexico, but also realizing it wasn't really productive. It was performative. It was me trying to live up to somebody else's expectation. And I have a concept to share with you down the road too. And I'm going to drop that hint here that a lot of times, at least for me, it wasn't about living up to expectations. I was actually trying to live down to them. But we're not going to go there fully yet. Just dropping that nugget here to see if that resonates with you, or if that sparks like, oh yes. So enjoying simple things, like actually eating outside at the beach, having like a little potluck picnic with friends along the shore, along a long walk. being outside and like just loving my surroundings, my view, how it cools off in the evenings, and standing outside and feeling that and noticing the difference, and how when the sun starts to go down, it instantly cools off. Those are the simple things. Beautiful sunsets and sunrises, obviously being near the ocean. Creating bilingual content. I've never not said that I was bilingual. I have always spoken Spanish and English, but a lot of the times, actually, I don't think I ever shared it for the first several years of, being on social media or even my podcast. So leaning into more bilingual content, because I know it will also let other people feel included. I shouldn't say that. Belonging. See, I'm still learning to choose my words intentionally. This is a place of belonging for more than one type of person. So leaning into more bilingual content and allowing myself to be silly, believe it or not, because I still, even though in my heart that is who I am, I held that back so often. And I would really only let it come out when I was with kids, because it felt appropriate to be silly and playful with kids. But I have friends. I have one friend in particular that I have met here, and she just brings that out. I mean, she is silly and goofball and frivolous so easily, and I love that. And it is allowing me to do more of that as well, like not be so reserved in that sense. And now I'm connecting things that I love in different ways. I have now on my vision board, if you will, traveling to get to know Mexico, different parts of Mexico, but going to see concerts, like planning that around going to concerts. And that will mean discovering bands and music here, as well as the bands that I'm familiar with who still tour, or new bands that tour and come here. Because these things that I just mentioned, they have nothing, or almost nothing maybe, to do with a 5-year plan. What they're doing is helping me recognize the life that feels like mine, that I am creating because it feels good and right for me. And another topic, this is a loaded podcast. I'm realizing this as we're in, but it felt like it was all relevant and connected. The difference between fitting in and belonging. I've talked about this through the other experiences, but fitting in asks, or kind of like the thinking behind that is, who do I need to be so this room will accept me? And by this room, I mean the people there, like whether it's work or your family or visiting somewhere. Who do I need to be so this room will accept me? Whereas belonging allows, doesn't ask, but allows, I don't have to leave parts of myself outside the door. They belong right here with me, inside this room, inside this space. And so belonging doesn't require us, you, me, any of us, to look, think, or live exactly like anyone else. You don't have to live like me to experience belonging. We can belong in this community and not live exactly the same lives, not even have the same beliefs. Two things can be true, your beliefs and my beliefs, and we can still belong, right? And that's not easy for some people to, one, grasp, or two, accept. And this is something that may be new to you, and if not, maybe you haven't thought about it this way. But when I said I just felt that energy, that vibe, I recognized myself, if you will, at the concert, our bodies oftentimes may recognize belonging before our mind understands it. Because I didn't have all these thoughts. I didn't have all these awarenesses being at the concert that night. My body, my energy, my soul, my heart, you choose, maybe all of the above, recognized it. I laugh, for me, it looks like laughing more freely and not toning it down. It looks like being more expressive with my tone, with my loudness, with my hands, with my voice, with the way I dress and accessorize. It means you stop rehearsing what you're going to say. And I know that all of us can relate to that on some point, on some level. And I'm not talking about like for lines or acting or even a speech. That's not what I'm talking about. Like rehearsing what you're going to say to someone, like when someone gets home, or having, you know you're going to meet with your boss, or, something where we rehearse what we're going to say. It doesn't require us to diminish ourselves. We actually are allowed to take up the space we take up. And with all of those things, we feel more alive. So pay attention to the places, the things, maybe even the people where you become more yourself, not less. The things that naturally invite you to, that naturally, where you naturally want to express and be those things without having to force it. Because becoming can be recognition, not necessarily transformation or invention of a new identity, but recognition. Like I said, I recognize that rock chick, right? You don't have to find yourself. I've said earlier, we're not lost. You recognize yourself. Because becoming doesn't mean manufacturing a new identity. It doesn't mean manufacturing or showing up as somebody you're not. You're allowing yourself to discover in some cases, but you're allowing yourself to try what authentically you want to try, or express how you authentically want to express. You will realize some things like, oh yeah, that does work or that doesn't work, but you're not doing it in a performative way. You might be experimenting. You might be curious. That is all good. But it's not trying to perform so that someone will accept you. You don't have to force yourself. Like I said, you recognize yourself. Your future self, higher self, whatever resonates, higher version, future you, may have qualities that these things help you develop, that these experiences help you develop if you don't yet have them, or if they're not yet strong, or traits that you want to strengthen. So they've been part of you, they just haven't been nurtured. And sometimes you find and recognize yourself through, like myself, music, imagination, creativity, another person, meeting or connecting with another person, a community, a group or community, like the rock community for me. A place where you feel unusually alive. Again, it's not performative, you just naturally like want to dance more or sing or express or create. You naturally feel more alive than usual. And a version of yourself that it allows you to become a version of yourself that you only think about, but that you admire. Like my rock chick. I wish I could be like her. I wish I could act like her. She doesn't give a shit. So it allows you to show up more like that version of you that you admire. Because maybe the woman you keep wishing that you could be isn't somebody else. Maybe she is the part of you asking for more space, for more breathing room to show up in. And so that is the bulk of it, I guess. But to wrap it all up and kind of connect this thread, weave this thread together, becoming or bringing these three sections. Yes, I'm following my outline and trying to look back at what I've talked about. Every time I need to reconnect with myself, or maybe lean more into, giving that future me more space to show up, it's always music that's the road back to myself. And also, in some instances, it's the road forward. It leads the road forward, right? It's like, oh, I'm going to follow this road. Music inspires that for me. So ways that shows up, ways that has happened, music has led me back to and has helped me find parts of myself I had quieted, my loudness, my, just dancing and being and not having to tone that down. It has helped me imagine new versions of my life, right? New things that I want to experience. When I listen to music, and I talk about this a lot, and journal to song lyrics, etc., it helps me imagine the new experiences, new dreams. It has introduced me to people and environments where I felt an instant connection, where I felt home, if you will. It has shifted the way that I feel in my body. I can, pop my fists and be more confident and not be like, oh yeah, okay, like that little quiet, good girl. It has helped me allow myself to embody that. And so that changes how I feel in my body. It has helped me and continues to help me embody a version of myself that I never thought I really could show up as. And I then get things that reflect back to me, things that match that, because I allow myself to show up that way. And sometimes music reconnects me to who I was, who I've been, who I've become through this journey as well, when I veer off course, off of, for whatever reason, multiple reasons I veered off course throughout my life. So it connects me to who I've become, who I'm becoming, and it also leads me towards who I'm continuing or now evolving into becoming. It does all of that at once, at the same time. So yeah, you don't have to declare it, but these experiences that bring you joy allow you naturally to express yourself and become yourself more and more. So connecting this to the manifesting me moment, because manifesting me, like I said, is becoming the next version of us, the future version of us, the higher version of us. You choose. So think about a version of yourself that you admire, that avatar, the wish you could be person. If you imagine that you wish you could be this person or whoever it is, whatever trait, what if you started accepting or invited yourself to accept that she is not an unrealistic fantasy? You admire her for a reason. So what if something about her is familiar because she represents a real part of you that simply hasn't had enough room to exist yet? And so the question to all of that, the follow-up question is, where have you already seen evidence of her in a song, an experience, a community, a moment of happiness, or a place where you felt completely alive? Look for those things where you have already seen evidence of her. Because you don't have to understand the entire clue or why it brings you happiness. You can begin by noticing it. Everything begins with awareness about ourselves. So the Rebel Reflection, this is also a regular feature or part of the podcast, is you can use this as a journal prompt. You can use this as a thought prompt. You can voice record responses to it, however you choose. Write or think about or whatever, fill in, replace write with something else if you choose. Write about a place, experience, song, or group of people that allowed a part of you to come alive. What did that experience reveal about who you are? And it's not so much forcing it. It really is an invitation, and these things might not come to mind right away, but by making that invitation, saying that, starting to jot down some ideas, these things will come up. So you can begin with what you saw. You can think about what you heard, what you felt, how you behaved differently, and what version of you appeared. Those are things you might just start with. Those might be things that come to mind if you don't have the whole answer to that prompt right away. And then the last component of every podcast also, because I like to challenge you guys and give you ways to implement these things, is the Rebel Challenge. So follow one happiness clue this week. One happiness clue. Choose one activity, a place, a song, a styling choice, an interest, or a form of expression that makes you feel more like yourself. Make room for it without requiring that thing to be productive, to earn you money, to impress anyone, to become a purpose, or even to lead you to a major decision. Just because you like it, just because you're curious, follow that. One time this week, one of those things, a place, a song, a style choice, an interest, or a form of expression that makes you feel more like yourself. And so while you're doing it, here's the embodiment part. While you're doing it, notice who you become when you stop asking the experience to prove its value, to prove that it has value. Enjoyment is the value. Happiness is the value. And then the rebel track. Every week we have a rebel track that I share with you. I invite you to explore. And because I talked about Stryper, and that was my first concert, this week's track is a Stryper song, and it's called Free. Now I will tell you, Stryper, like as a whole, is a Christian rock band. That's not why it attracted me to it. I had no clue about that at the time. So don't let that, if you already knew that about them, that's not the point. This song that I referred to you has absolutely no mention of religious things at all. It's truly about freedom. You're free to choose. You're free to be. You're free to all these things. So give it a try. You don't have to like it, right? This is allowing yourself to just experience and get curious. So the track is Free by Stryper. And so why this track, other than the fact that it relates to the concert, is that this is an intentional, excuse me, I've got something in my eye. If you're not watching the video, sorry for that, drifted off there. This isn't an intentional exception to my playlist, because this is not on my Manifesting Songs playlist, right? So I told you, usually they come from there, but this song isn't on there. But it really relates, other than the band itself, Stryper, it relates. It still helps you feel like anything is possible. And so, yes, I'm processing, I'm thinking. I wrote myself why this track? Oh my goodness. And apparently something got in my eye. Sorry about that, guys. Stryper was the band playing when I first experienced this. And so when I first experienced that this world existed, that was the band. So that is my connection. Simply put. And it connects you to allowing you to make your own choices. And so my invitation with the Rebel track is to play it, listen to it. And then I also invite you to choose a song for yourself that first allowed you to feel louder, truer, freer, and just a more genuine and authentic version of yourself. Choose your own song, because that will have much more relevance and importance and connection for you personally. And then when you listen to the song you choose, allow yourself to remember who you were when you first heard it, and then take the Rebel challenge as that, when I say when you first heard it, like the you that you recognized, right? And take and participate in the Rebel challenge as that version of her. So if you dig music as much as I do and you haven't gotten it yet, I do have a Manifesting Songs playlist. Free, like I said, is not on there. But this list I put together with songs designed to help you feel like anything is possible. And so maybe music can be a way for you, to find the road back to yourself and the road forward too. Might just be something inspirational or simply fun to listen to. Again, not supposed to necessarily serve a purpose, right? So let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know if you like the playlist. And I also encourage you to make your own Manifesting Songs playlist. And thank you. This was a longer, kind of more packed episode, but I think it was all worth it. And relevant to have them all these components included. And I will see you next week. I'm Patty Diaz, Rebel Manifestor. We don't wish for a better life here. We become the person living that life by recognizing ourselves. Take care, Rebels, and rock on.